educational webinar series. Thank you for joining us today. We are very fortunate to have as our guest Reed Davis, who is a certified nutritional therapist. He's also the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, and today's topic is Mastering Metabolic Chaos. Welcome, Reed.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm hoping to do an outstanding presentation for everybody. And I guess I'll just proceed. Do I still have you there? Okay, I'm not
Yes,
hearing
Reed,
anything.
you're still connected, and your audio is just wonderful, so feel free to go ahead and proceed.
All right, well, thanks again for having me. You know, I've been in this business a long time, sharing and teaching and educating, and it's just a dream come true for me. If you're listening to this, I hope that you get something out of it that's important to you that will improve your life. This is if you have clients, because I understand there might be some practitioners and it might just be public listening in, and this has something for everybody. So if you or any clients are not reaching your health goals, if you still have unresolved health complaints, even though you've been working on it for some time, or if you're a practitioner and your practice doesn't seem to be growing because clients are seeking help elsewhere, then you're always needing new clients. I want to tell you that you're all going to get something out of this. And likely it's not you. It's more likely the system you're using. I'm going to turn my little video off over there and just say that let's jump into it. And this is not a medical approach. So a little slight disclaimer here, and you'll like this because we know that medical treatment is for specific diseases or diagnoses, managing the symptoms of a disease. And what we do is completely different. We work in what's called a non-specific manner. We identify healing opportunities and underlying causes, and that's really our only concern, not labeling some cluster of symptoms. And medical treatment, of course, depends mostly these days still on drugs and surgery. We instead apply wellness principles on a journey of ever-deepening insights about individual obstacles to health, and then, of course, opportunities for overcoming them. And it's my firm belief that the honest pursuit of these healing opportunities and creatively working towards a resolution is the basis upon which health works. And you heard me introduce as the founder of FDN. You're going to learn a few things about that. And needless to say, the public is facing unprecedented levels of health problems. The United States, unfortunately, isn't anywhere near the top of the most healthy countries. It's way down the list. And on the left, there's just a short list of all the things people are complaining of and all the things that people are coming to health coaches for. And so I want to just ask you, do you know what these chronic health complaints have in common? Well, clients who have them are caught in a cycle of trial and error, and I will just go over that in just a second here. But one of the things, and I speak before large audiences live quite a bit, and I always say, raise your hand if you or anyone you know has ever been to a doctor and told everything looks normal. You know, like you do some blood work, it looks normal. So does that mean it's all in your head? Well, of course not. And this is not to disparage doctors, because they save lives, but they can't meet all your needs. So we know that if your blood looks normal, your complaints aren't all in your head. Even headaches, they're a symptom. They're not due to an aspirin deficiency. Caffeine is not due to, or fatigue is not due to caffeine deficiency. And sleeplessness is not the result of an Ambien shortage in your household. And what I want you to really get solid squared away, if you don't already have it, is that symptoms are not the problem. They're the result of the problem. And so that's pretty much the basis upon which we work, that symptoms aren't the problem. So here's what the cycle of trial and error is about. People with health complaints often go to their physician first. That's a good place to start, just in case there's something life-threatening. But once that's ruled out, there isn't much that standard medicine has to offer. Drugs and surgery, of course. Now, again, you could either have been told you're not a candidate for drugs, or surgery. There's nothing wrong with you. Or you refuse to take them. In other words, people today, more and more, are leaning towards the natural solutions. So, unfortunately, there isn't one place to go where you're guaranteed to get fixed. And people are caught in this cycle of trial and error. They try one diet program, they go on to the next program, and they spend a lot of money doing it. And by the way, there's people taking advantage of that and making a lot of money on all of these different programs, whether it's supplements, exercise, diet, therapy, what have you. And obviously, these practitioners are not filling the needs. And that's why they're always scrounging for new clients, because their clients have moved on. And that really frustrated me. When I started 20 years ago as the health director and case manager in a clinic, a very busy wellness center in California back in 1999. So almost 20 years ago. And it really blew my mind, everybody, that everyone who came in had already seen 5 or 8 practitioners or more and spent a lot of money. And I, somewhat naively at the time, I admit, decided I was going to be the last person that they needed to see. How was I going to do that? Well, I was a nutritionist, but because I worked with some great doctors who are very open-minded and advanced thinking, this is 20 years ago, before this was as popular as it is now, I started running laboratory work. Saliva, urine, blood, stool testing, anything. And I ran thousands of tests on thousands of people, mostly women, but we made some observations about who was getting better and who didn't, and they started bringing me their husbands and their kids. So we worked on an awful lot of people. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone listening that those working closest to the underlying cause actually restored health. We used to use the phrase, get to the root cause, get to the root cause. Well, I'll explain why that isn't always possible. But those working closest to the underlying cause actually restored their health, and you know that. What's not so intuitive is something else I discovered, that people with the exact same complaints, whether it be thyroid or adrenal or fatigue or whatever it is, same complaints, but completely different causes. As we searched and searched and searched for the causal factors, they had different things going on. And some of those causal factors were very far removed from the actual symptoms or complaints. It's quite remarkable. That's not so intuitive. That's something that only by running 10,000 tests on people would you discover. And over that period of time, about 10 years working in the clinic, I developed functional diagnostic nutrition and are now tried and true and proven D.R.E.S.S for health success protocols. So I feel like I did identify that needs gap and figured out what fills it, ending the cycle of trial and error for thousands of people. Now I teach it. I've been teaching my system for over 10 years. I have thousands of students in about 50 different countries. And here's how we fill the needs gap. So remember, people come off of their latest fad or effort, and whatever it is, and God bless them. We're not blaming anybody for anything. It's not their fault. They just haven't landed in the right space where we don't chase symptoms. We also don't treat the paper. We don't treat the test results even. We simply sort out metabolic chaos. Now, I'm going to explain that phrase to you. Now, this stuff gets a little heady, and I'm going to take my time and really teach you something here. So put your seatbelt on, get ready to learn a few things about the needs gap and identifying those healing opportunities. How do we do that? Coaching up function and coaching down hidden stressors and contributors to that metabolic chaos. Now, when you can do that for a person, if you do it for yourself, or if you do it for your clients, will produce happy people. You'll get great results, and everybody's needs are met. The client's needs are met, and your needs are met because they're going to refer a lot of people to you. Now, let's get back to these unresolved health problems that people have. Again, this is a short list. This covers a lot of ground, but it's a short list. What else, besides the fact that the people who have them are caught in the cycle, what else do they have in common? They are the result of hidden stressors and dysfunction. Hidden stressor dysfunction, what I call metabolic chaos, a phrase I coined because it's very, very appropriate. Now, this is kind of how I've been teaching it for 20 years in the office. I would draw this out on a whiteboard. I could do it on a blackboard. I could do it on a piece of paper or a napkin. Draw this out. How hidden stressors lead to metabolic chaos. So we all have this big organ up in our skull that allows us to think, and it's connected to the body, and it basically regulates and controls all function through the blood, through the nerves, and through energy flow. So it doesn't matter if we're talking heart, lungs, kidneys, pancreas, adrenals, ovaries, testes, if you got them. It's about function. And we're designed, now this is another premise of our work, and of it's just the way we think. Our methodology is based on the fact that every cell in your body already knows what its job is. There's an innate intelligence in every cell, tissue, organ, and system. It knows what to do. And we're designed pretty perfectly. That's normal. And the body, therefore, would be in a state of ease, which is known medically as homeostasis. So you're in a state of ease with lots of vital reserve, in other words, intelligence and energy and ability to stay alive, built in. It's built in. So that's a healthy person. That's a healthy person. That's not how people come to us, though. They come to us with this thing called symptoms. Their complaints, tired, fatigue, whatever it might be. And so the typical standard system would say, okay, well, let me back up for a second and say that why would you have symptoms if you're perfectly healthy? Well, the truth is you're not perfectly healthy anymore. If you have symptoms, there is some kind of a dis-ease process, lack of ease. You still have vital reserve, but it might be diminished. Now, what's that come from? It comes from malfunction. There's something dysfunctioning. Some cell, tissue, organ, or system has lost normal function. It's not at 100% like it was designed. Therefore, you have the disease process. Therefore, symptoms show up, and they're very common. You should never confuse common with normal. Now, you might have heard this speech before, but I'm just showing it to you in a way you can visualize it. We call that dysfunction, malfunction, and disease processes metabolic chaos. And I'll show you more about that. So what do people come in for generally, though? They want relief. And again, they get offered the drugs or they get offered other things to remove the symptom. That's not a horrible thing because we don't want to have people out there suffering. And doctors are actually really good at that. Even some nutritionists just sell supplements. That's a different kind of pill. But it just gets rid of the symptoms. It doesn't really change anything. And so we know that the symptoms are going to come back or new symptoms will appear. So symptoms are a sign that something's wrong. There's no such thing as a normal symptom. They could go away or decrease with relief care, but may come back with a vengeance, as I just said, or show up as new symptoms. New ones appear. Now, our paradigm is to focus on resolving that metabolic chaos while providing intelligent relief care. In other words, something natural if you can. So how do we do that? Well, we understand that distress, whether it's mental, emotional, biomechanical trauma, you beat yourself up or something, or our specialty, the chemical and biochemical hidden stressors and other contributors to metabolic chaos, that's what leads to the malfunction. So we start to pull this apart. We know what the pieces of the puzzle are. And as we identify through our lab work those healing opportunities, you're going to keep hearing that word, we help the body regain normal function. So as you see here in the middle, function returns to normal, or you strive for that, you work towards that. We call it corrective care. We're correcting the dysfunction. Guess what? The disease it just really can't exist anymore. The body returns to a state of ease, health is restored, and symptoms simply disappear. Complaints are often permanently resolved if you know what the steps are to doing it. Then you'd be in a maintenance care. You take care of yourself, in your family, and everyone around you. And teach others how you got there, by the way. I feel that's kind of a duty. So we're going to go over what those steps are. But it's very important as we just look at this, that the symptoms were the last thing to appear. Before symptoms appear, there has to be some kind of malfunction and disease process. So we basically look upstream. Now I'm going to explain what metabolic chaos is. And I invite my hosts to jump in if I'm going too fast or have any questions. You want to stop me for any reason. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going and explain that metabolic chaos is a state that exists because of hidden complexities in one's metabolism and underappreciated influences from the environment. Now, that's what metabolic chaos is. That's why we're sick. It's hidden complexities in our body and underappreciated influences from the environment. And the correlation between the symptoms and the cause is very unpredictable. And yet, that's exactly what every single practitioner does when you walk in their office. You go in there with this set of symptoms, and they're going to automatically predict what it is. And I'll show you how that works in a sec. Fantastic, Cheryl. Thank you. So, a clue to metabolic chaos is when intervention based on a traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms or even abnormal objective markers, like lab tests, produces only a marginal therapeutic response. So, in other words, if someone has listened to your complaints, predicted what's wrong, maybe even ran a test, and then provides intervention based on that cluster of symptoms and markers, if it only gets you a little bit better, it's because of metabolic chaos. They're not dealing with what's really wrong. And so contributors to metabolic chaos are the cause. I mean, there's thousands of them. And metabolic chaos is the effect until metabolic chaos itself becomes the most significant health condition. And that's where we find people. Now, proof is here. I'll just go over this. Again, it's a little heady, but I think we have a very intelligent audience who's been around the block a few times, and a lot of things I have looked into. Terry Talks, and you have had some really smart presenters, and you must have some really smart observers. So the physiological aspects of metabolic chaos. We take a body, and it is full of metabolic weak links. People are different. And so someone might come in the office with the thyroid type complaints. And you know what the common symptom, remember, there's this traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms. You can even run a test. Well, we know that the thyroid is part of the endocrine system, the hormone producing gland system, the endocrine system. And endocrine dysfunction is the result of metabolic chaos and also contributes to metabolic chaos. You see the arrows are pointed on each end. So thyroid function, is it the result of metabolic chaos, or is the endocrine system out of whack and contributing to metabolic chaos? And it's both. So what happens when you only deal with the symptoms, give someone to take for their thyroid symptoms, they might even go away. But they're not changing anything in the body, as we saw. And the cascade continues. You end up with nerve cell problems, and brain fog and cloudy thinking appears. We know people with both those sets of symptoms. And then guess what happens? Carb metabolism starts to go, even though the person might be eating well. And they end up with blood sugar problems. You can't figure out why, because their diet's pretty darn good. And this appears in our office all the time. Well, eventually, again, carb metabolism problems are the result of metabolic chaos in some cases and contributes greatly to metabolic chaos. And based on one's individual weak links can appear as other problems anywhere in the body, like fat and protein metabolism, mucosal surface integrity, and you end up with gut dysbiosis, leaky gut, all kinds of things happen. Weight and fat distribution problems, and you know how prevalent that is. So that's a person who's eating pretty well, still has carb metabolism issues, thyroid problems, brain fog, overweight, and what have you. And no one's figuring out why. Now, here's another story, real quick, about someone who almost purposely is giving themselves carb metabolism issues because they eat like crap, to coin a phrase. They think that Snickers is a healthy snack or something like that. And so they are giving themselves this up and down blood sugar. They're ruining carb metabolism. That greatly contributes to metabolic chaos in the body. Now, I've changed weak links in metabolism to another phrase I love, vital voids, because again, we are designed perfectly. Every cell in our bodies knows what its job is, doesn't have to be told what to do. But that's vitality. That's what makes us such vital organisms. There can be voids in that for lots of reasons. So, and they're very individualized. So in this person, they end up with the same fat and protein metabolism problems and so on. But because we have different vital voids in the next person and different inputs, like eating crap, they end up with immune regulation problems. In other words, their inflammatory state becomes uncontrollable, and people just give them anti-inflammatories. Here's your medicine. Knock that skin problem down, that asthma, or whatever it might be. There's lots of ways to treat over here on the cluster of symptoms. And so you can figure out what's coming next. They also end up with endocrine dysfunction and could appear in your office, or you might appear in someone's office as just having that traditionally reliable cluster of thyroid symptoms. We're going to go into this a little bit more thoroughly. This is not, like my course is not a weekend course. This is not a 10-minute webinar to just sell you something. We're going to teach you something here. So again, for instance, all of this stuff going on. And you can chase the symptoms for 20 years and just get worse and worse and worse. So here is a traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms. What's this lady's problem? Besides the fact that her elbows are stuck to her knees. She's got the weight gain and all these traditional reliable things that point towards thyroid. Absolutely, that's a thyroid reliable cluster of symptoms. You could even run a test. So the clinical diagnosis is thyroid, meaning that's what it sounds like. And sure enough, you run a thyroid test. Yep, pat myself on the back. I found your problem. It's low thyroid output. Here's your medication. Or if I'm a naturopath type person, here's your supplements. And then we're going to retest you later and bring those results in range. And if it's not right, we're going to monitor the test results. We're going to titrate or adjust the dosage accordingly. Now, that's treating the paper. So it's treating the symptoms or it's treating the paper. Both don't lead to better health. Some symptoms might go away for sure. They could abate. But what if they come back? Or more likely, as I went through in that brain-body diagram, new ones appear. Well, you're going to repeat the process. What are those? What's that new cluster of symptoms? Oh, what test can we remember? Oh, here's another prescription or a bunch of supplements you have to take. So it's just a different cycle of trial and error. Now, this is where it gets a bit heavy because I'm going to teach you why it's not the thyroid. So there's that same cluster of symptoms. Over here we have the thyroid and the hormones that it produces, your T4 and your T3. Now, the standard diagnosis based on that cluster is hypothyroidism, low thyroid. Run a test to confirm, yep, found your problem. Here's your missing hormone. We can give you the synthetic T4. We're going to hope it converts to T3, and we're going to get those test results back into range. Again, some of the symptoms might even abate, but they'll return over time or new symptoms will appear, and you start a new cycle of testing, treating, testing, treating, testing, treating. And by the way, hypothyroidism is generally considered in standard medicine as idiopathic. What that means is we don't know what causes it. Idiopathic means we don't know why you have it. It's idiopathic. Well, that's considered treating the test results, not the person, and my gang doesn't accept the term idiopathic. Now, I'm not saying there couldn't be something wrong with the thyroid. There is some reasons why it could actually be the thyroid not producing, but those are pretty rare conditions, actually. And here's a better way of looking at it. Why I say forget the cluster of symptoms and forget the test results that you looked at. It could be just metabolic chaos. We know what makes the thyroid produce is the hypothalamus and the pituitary. So let's take the hypothalamus. Maybe the problem's there. Hypothalamus produces TRH, which stimulates the pituitary to produce TSH, which finally makes the thyroid produce those hormones, the T3 and T4, your thyroid hormones, which you can't live without. So let's say it might be a hypothalamic problem. TRH is affected by neurotransmitter imbalances, sympathetic overload, too much anxiety and things, parasympathetic overload, you're too laid back, other hormones, immune system elements, the limbic system, which is how you perceive the world and are looking at things, brain chemistry and toxicity, and all of those influences are on the hypothalamus and its ability to produce the TRH correctly. There's no lab for TRH, but low TRH can result from those influences, which will lower your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, and that will lower thyroid hormone, and you'll get that same cluster of symptoms that we looked at. Now let's say that it's not hypothalamic, or maybe it is a little bit, but let's look at the pituitary and the dysfunction that could occur there. TSH can be suppressed by the hypothalamus, of course, but also by endotoxins, which are toxins produced in your body. Excess cortisol from stress. Now, of course, none of you are stressed because you get to sit home and watch webinars all day or something, but I'm joking. So excess cortisol from stress, inflammation, environmental pollutants can all affect TSH. So the poor thyroid's taking the blame, but it's not the real problem. Now, you're going to end up with the exact same cluster of symptoms, thyroid symptoms. Now, we're going to just look at a couple more examples of how it's really metabolic chaos. Thyroid hormone, I won't go through the entire explanation, which I do in my course, but thyroid hormone has to be bound up to travel around to places in your body and be kind of released later or unbound later. Overbinding means too little free thyroid hormone, and same thyroid symptoms will occur. Underbinding means too much free thyroid can occur and damage the receptor sites, and you'll end up with the same symptoms. So you have a binding issue. You also could have a conversion issue. Remember, T4 has to be converted to T3 in the liver. This is really critical. T4 is useless until it turns into T3. And most of the thyroid hormone, it's about 97% free T4. So it has to be converted to T3 in the liver. Well, the liver must remove one iodine molecule from T4 to make it active T3. It's done using enzymes. Those could be out of balance or non-existent. Now, the liver also makes reverse T3, which is an inactive form. It could make too much and fill up the receptor sites in your cells. Guess what? You're going to end up with the exact same symptoms. And it could also just be the cells themselves, receptorship issues from inflammation and all kinds of things, mitochondrial dysfunction. I'm sorry for the big words, but you're not going to get the metabolic effect of T3 like you want. And of course, reverse T3 could be taken up to T3 receptors. There's a lot of metabolic chaos going on, and guess what? You could have other issues, and in every case, the symptoms are the same. Again, hypothyroidism isn't idiopathic. There's always a reason for it. And maybe two last little emphasis on this. There's other things that can affect your TSH, like gut dysfunction. Everyone here has heard of dysbiosis, like, eat your probiotics and things like that. Well, there's certain unwanted gut bacteria that produce those endotoxins that I mentioned. We call them LPS, and they decrease TSH. Well, again, poor thyroid's going to get the blame. LPS from gut bacteria also disrupt conversion of T4 to T3. Same symptoms. LPS also affects T3 receptors in your cells. Same symptoms. It's just really kind of interesting how just a little bit of gut dysbiosis can ruin everything. Now, here's one last. This one's a little more technical, but it is the last slide on thyroid function. So, but besides making active T3, the liver makes a whole bunch of T3 acetic acid and T3 sulfate. Now, they have to be converted in the gut into active T3. So the cells, your cells, to get the metabolic effect, can't use T3 acetic acid. They can't use T3 sulfate. It has to be converted in the gut to get used. Now that represents 25% of your total T3, the active hormone that's regulating your metabolism. Well, lack of healthy gut flora results in poor conversion of those and up to 25% reduction of active thyroid hormone. And guess what? Guess what? Symptoms are the same. So there, I just gave you all of these reasons why the old paradigm, it's the thyroid. It's not the thyroid. You know, it's like a lady who's a hoarder. She's got all of this junk going on and, you know, doesn't just need a bigger trailer to live in. She needs to get rid of the junk. So it could be hypothalamic, pituitary. It could be the thyroid itself, but it could also be the liver, binding, conversion, clearance. It could be the gut, dysfunction, dysbiosis. It could be on the cellular level, sensitivities, resistance, all kinds of things. It could even be the adrenals and stress, like I showed you how it's stress. All of which converts the same thyroid symptoms. It actually gets worse from here, but I'm going to leave it at that and say that the new paradigm is that it's metabolic chaos. So now you know. In my world, where I'm a nutritional therapist and what we call an FDN practitioner, and again, 20 years in development, I now know that we have one diagnosis, metabolic chaos. Symptoms don't matter. And there's no one test you could run. The root cause could be never known. There's not enough tests. But that's okay. That root cause could be undetectable, very, very far removed from what one predicts or even measures. But that doesn't matter. Here's the gold coin that you take to the bank. You can have a positive effect upon whatever that road is when you know the steps to take. Now, this is where this is like midpoint. We're about halfway through. You know, what will you do with your health, or what will you do with your next client? Either way, you're looking at this. The most important pearl you could take home today is that by unraveling that metabolic chaos, you can truly fill the needs gap and end the cycle of trial and error for yourself and your clients. All my students have to work on themselves, which is why, like, lay people take my course. They just want to work on themselves. And I'm just going to tell you that at the end, I have an amazing offer for you, but it's basically, if you go to this website, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/Terry Talks, you'll be taken to a special sign-up page where you could enter this code, Terry Talks 500, and take $500 off our course. Now I'm going to go through the rest of the half. I wanted to let you know that in case your time is short, or you're listening to this for the second or third time, and people do listen to my webinars 2 or 3 or 4 times, and they take notes, and then they contact us and ask questions. Now, what it takes to master that metabolic chaos is some effort and some intelligence-seeking desire. We teach the investigative skills and mindset that always seeks to unravel metabolic chaos instead of treating symptoms or just treating the paper. We have access to proven labs and time-honored protocols for you and your clients. Again, 20 years of doing this, we've gathered some resources. And the ability to review a client's lab test results or your own and identify the healing opportunities, like what really needs fixing, areas that need improvement, and confidence in the protocols and a coaching method or a method to follow, a path to follow, so that the client gets healthy, or you. Now, it's 3 steps, as I said: assess underlying conditions and contributors to metabolic chaos. It's very comprehensive. Customize a D.R.E.S.S for Health Success program. That's our complete whole body holistic protocols that we've been working on for 20 years. And then someone has to run the program. So we designed the program. You got to run the program. Guess who gets to run it? Everyone runs it on themselves. And if they need it, then they get coaching. That's what I teach people to do, is how to coach that process up. We basically figure out what's wrong and help fix it. And here's how it works. Here's how we work. There's only 3 steps. Step 1 is to run the functional lab testing. These are functional labs. They're not the ones where the doctor says you look fine. They actually identify healing opportunities, malfunctions. We look within the hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and the nervous system. HIDDEN. Now, I love acronyms because they make it easy for me to remember. And hidden internal stressors and dysfunctions, they highly correlate with most common health complaints. So if you remember at the beginning, I went over that long list of all the stuff people show up with, all the stuff that people are suffering with. It's all chronic degenerative conditions. And these are the hidden stressors that underlie those conditions and symptoms. We're just like health detectives. And why did I pick these 6? Because after running 10,000 labs, those were the areas that I determined were at the underlying, or if you want to call it root cause, you can, that they're the underlying conditions. Now, one of them is the stress and hormone profile. We look for all of this. I'm going to sort of start speeding up here just a little bit, but cortisol dysregulation, sex hormone imbalances, things like that. There's what part of that test looks like. You can just see the roller coaster up and down. Cortisol levels. Here we see the estrogens are low, both of them. The progesterone is low. The melatonin is low. The testosterone is low. We start to look at what's really wrong. But realizing that test results are the problem, they're the result of the problem. So you don't just get a prescription for estrogen, progesterone, melatonin, or testosterone. We're going to look on the rest of the labs why those are low. So that's the problem, or how the problem is showing up. Another test we run is the metabolic assessment profile. By the way, that first test was saliva, easy to do at home. The second test is urine, also easy to do at home, and these are not real expensive. We look for maldigestion, oxidative stress, poor detoxification, and liver function, things like that. We find it right on the test, easy. You submit the saliva and urine, we get the test results. Guess what we found out on this one? Liver congestion, oxidative stress. That's like an apple turning brown. You know, you're getting older before your time. Poor protein breakdown. Wouldn't you like to know that? Couldn't that be the source of a lot of your problems? We're really figuring out what's wrong here. Now, another test, which is also urine, again, easy to collect at home. We look for villus atrophy, hyperpermeability, dysbiosis pathology. Those are some fancy words for gut dysfunction, leaky gut, and these kind of things. You're not going to be able to digest, break down, and absorb your food. You can be eating great, it's not getting in the body. And this is what that test result looks like. It's easy to interpret, and again, we've run thousands of them. So that's 1 saliva and 2 urine tests, so far easy to do at home. Another test, not so much fun as a stool test, but you do collect it at home and send it into the lab. And we look at pathology, like do you have bugs that don't belong there? Dysbiosis, which is more of the same thing. Overgrowth of yeast or parasites, we have an infestation, again, these type of things. When we identify these pathogens, overgrowth, and biofilms, we're discovering what's preventing your healing and contributing to metabolic chaos. Of course, we've got to get rid of those things. This person had yeast overgrowth, H. pylori, which is a bacteria, and E. coli, another bacteria. But are the bugs the problem? No. Remember, we never treat the test results. They're not the problem. They're the result of the problem, which is a very unhealthy gut and immune system. That's why these things were able to get a foothold and propagate. They're just opportunistic organisms. So that's a stool test. All those are easy to do. This one does require a quick blood draw. We have thousands of places where you can go get that done. And it is a food sensitivity test, because food or oral intolerance testing, you might actually call it. We check for 170 different foods and find that a lot of them you're very reactive to. Look at all the reds. Even the yellows are reactive. So we get people just eating the green foods for a while, and their whole life starts. I've done this with my mother, my sister, her husband, and family, not to mention 10,000 clients. This is what I do for people and myself. And so that's 5 labs. And I'll stop there just on those and say, look, we haven't diagnosed it, and we're not going to treat a specific thing. We're not going to treat paper. We simply identify healing opportunities, what needs improvement, and apply wellness principles. The D.R.E.S.S program, you're going to see that in a minute. That's step 2. So here's the symptoms and the lab values at the top. We don't treat the symptoms per se, and we don't treat the paper per se. We instead focus on the chronic stress-related dysfunctions and what does it take to improve these things. We've identified all of these and more with those labs. Matter of fact, even just 3 of them will identify most of what's on this list, what I call metabolic chaos. Not looking to, send this in with an ICD-10 code and bill insurance. We're just saying, look, run this lab, here's what's wrong, and now we're going to go over how to fix it. So that's step 2. So when you've done step 1, thoroughly investigate it, and you know what's wrong, then you can design a program that's going to fix it all, every cell, tissue, organ, and system, the entire organism. It's very easy to remember. Remember, I do like my acronyms. It's the D.R.E.S.S for Health Success program. So we studied the hidden HIDD and stressors. Now we're going to follow a D.R.E.S.S for Health Success program. Coach up that vital reserve, that intelligence in every cell. Bring that back. And while we coach down the contributors to metabolic chaos. It sounds simple. It's pretty simple in concept. It's a lot for certain people to follow. Some follow it more easily and better than others, but at least it's there and you know what you're supposed to do, and it's customized to each individual. It's a process so effective we were granted a trademark, and it's easy to remember. Hold up your hand, label your 5 fingers D.R.E.S.S. Everything you need to do in life to be happy and healthy is D.R.E.S.S. So very quickly, diet. I'm going to flash through this because we just don't have the time. But we know how to figure out the right diet for each person and make sure people get the right sleep and exercise. A lot of that you've heard about already. We specialize a lot in stress reduction because we can identify and help eliminate the mental, physical, and biochemical stressors, especially the hidden ones. Hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system, ID'd by the labs. And so you might think you eat great, you might already sleep well, you might go to the gym 3 times a week. We can tune that up because it really should be individualized. But the stress reduction, almost no one will ever figure that out on their own. Now the last S is supplements, and I don't sell my own brand. I don't have a private label or something like that because I'm not in the supplement business, but I sure know a lot about them, and I teach it all. And we use targeted supplementation to support and to stimulate as needed, and it's really good to know about those things. So that's step 2, is design that program customized for each person after we've run the labs in step 1. And step 3, of course, is now that you have a program, run the program. We provide a self-care model, self-directed self-care based on knowledge, empowerment, and behavior. And my practitioners guide course correction. Remember, the corrective phase is the main phase. There's relief, as I said, feel better. Correct, which is get to the underlying conditions and improve function. And then people go on and maintain it for the rest of their lives. And they are healthier and happier. You will never be happy if you're not healthy, not completely. And we do refer out for additional needs, like if you need a chiropractic adjustment, go see one. If you need, by the way, a CT scan, go see a medical doctor for that kind of a thing. So there's no power boating to health is my one admonishment. You can't say, give me the program, Reed, I'm going to be there in 6 weeks. You may not be there in 6 weeks. It's more like sailing. There's no power boating. There's currents in the water. There's wind in the sails or no wind in the sails. It's more like zigzagging. That's why you need course correction from guided by a practitioner, in my opinion. That's step 1, 2, 3. It works because of these principles, and they're just straight out of the Bible, if you want. In other words, they're just the truth. We don't diagnose or treat anything specifically. We treat everything non-specifically. And non-specific treatment is not hocus pocus. It's a very well understood concept, even within the medical community. Non-specific treatment, like doing things that just make you feel better, and they're not sure why. Well, we do all the science behind it and know why. So we don't diagnose anything specifically. We make observations about metabolic chaos, remove as many contributors and stressors as possible, unmasking the basic systems that are actually failing. So it is a process. And we nurture those functions, restore normal metabolism, and support weak links so clients invariably get better. We invariably get better. And every single, I have 3,000 students. They're all on their journey. Each one is on that stairway to health and happiness. Various places on the stairs, but that's the deal. Now, healing occurs when the healing process is focused on identifying and removing contributors to metabolic chaos and supporting function through corrective behavior and natural therapies. That's how we know it works. And a quick summary here, and then I'm going to go into a way that you can do this if you want to. It's vital reserve, that's the intelligence in every cell, and the fact that you're still alive, versus contributors to metabolic chaos. We simply coach up that vital reserve with diet, rest, exercise, stress reducing supplements, treats every cell in your body. Well, we coach down contributors to metabolic chaos, the known stressors, the hidden stressors, any and all contributors to metabolic chaos, and you just get better. Now, you might say, this is a quick sort of caveat. Well, I already know someone who runs tests. Well, many health practitioners can order lab tests. Almost anyone can get them today. But they're doing it based on that cluster of symptoms, and then they treat the paper. They might run one lab. They might run two. But there is no one lab. There certainly isn't. I don't know if you watch Star Trek, but there, you know, McCoy, Bones, the doc, used to take that little device and wave it over the body and, you know, oh, here's what's wrong with you. That doesn't exist. And it won't happen in my lifetime, or probably yours. And there's no one lab either. You can't just put blood in a computer. Oh, here's everything. It doesn't happen. And I get asked, because I'm a clinical advisor for a laboratory, which lab should I run? They come to me, and this person is a wreck. Which lab should I run? Well, of the labs I showed you, which one wouldn't you run? You know, you've got to get a cluster of dysfunction, apply the general principle of health, then they're going to get better. So those people who are experts running a lab, oh, I think it's thyroid, here's your thyroid test, we've already shown you that doesn't work. They're just creating a new cycle of trial and error. I'm going to flip through this really fast because we've kind of gone over it. They're just treating the test results. There's that cluster of symptoms. There's that diagnosis. And the new symptoms appear after they just treat the paper, and then they repeat. Test after test after test, new cycle of trial and error. So this should be for you, as we wrap it up here, an emancipating paradigm. In other words, setting you free. You can pretty much give up looking for the root cause. It might never be known. There certainly isn't one lab. It could be undetectable, very far removed from what one predicts or measures. But that doesn't matter. You can still have a positive effect upon it when you know the steps to take. And when you know that, guided by lab work that we do, the functional labs, just looking for those healing opportunities, then the D.R.E.S.S program, the general principles of health building, will outperform specific treatments every time. And if you think this is right for you, or, you know, especially if you're in business or would like to be, one thing we've done to my hosts, I want to say this is really remarkable. The number of people who are not exactly in the health, they're health followers and they're health seekers and they're health nuts, I guess, uh, but they haven't really made the leap to go into business yet. Well, we've helped them do that. We have a no-nonsense health coaching system and education program that gets results, science-based, obviously with the labs and all the things we know about the protocols. You can work on yourself. It's very complete training. All you have to do is duplicate it. You start with yourself, as I said. Then you can end up, if you want to, working from home, working with groups and things like that. And we have trained every kind of health coach, personal trainer, nutritionist, and therapist, and doctors, allied practitioners like nurses and registered dietitians and chiropractors and acupuncturists and things like that. We're very well recognized. And I think all of us here together, as the last couple slides, I'm going to show you a special offer. I think we are bound together in this. It's why I showed up on Terry Talks. Why? Because there's something in the universe binding us together. It's knowing that the body can heal itself. There's that innate intelligence, that vital reserve. And because we do want to end the cycle of trial and error and fill the needs gap for ourselves and for other people. And we also, and if you didn't know it, you now know, that general principles can outperform specific treatments, and you know how. And we know, obviously, which labs and natural protocols are proven to resolve metabolic chaos. And another thing binding us together is that we do have a step-by-step approach. It's easy for practitioners and clients to follow. Well, at least it's there, and it's easy to see the sense of it and the logic. Some people have a harder time with it than others. And we're all health coaches. And this is for you if you have a strong desire to help others and are willing to walk the talk. Maybe that's all you want to do is walk the talk. You have to be willing to learn and invest in yourself and your business, if you have one. And or if you or your clients are not reaching all your health goals and still have unresolved health complaints. And that's going to mean your clients go somewhere else to get their needs met. They're not giving you referrals, and you're always out there looking for new ones. And that's senseless extra work you don't have to be doing if you are a health coach. You must learn how to stop the cycle of trial and error. And in order to help you, I've done, kind of this Terry Talks easy tuition thing here. My course is $7,395. We've got the certification course. You run labs on yourself and receive a ton of mentoring. And we have a health coaching business model for those that want to earn their money back and start helping other people and making a living doing it. Or you can just add this to your existing practice. I'm taking $2,400 off of that for Terry Talks people and giving you all free FD and community mentorship. And one last slide. If you go to that website I talked about and put /Terry Talks, you'll be at the page where you can enter this code and take an additional $500 off. Total savings is almost $3,000. Now you can register and talk to somebody by phone. This is a very limited time offer, so I know that this is being recorded and will be put out on Terry Talks website and through their channels, and I'm very, very blessed and pleased about that. But if you get to our website, any other way, you can always find us at registration info, talk to someone and things like that. So I'm going to leave it here as I just say thank you so much for attending the webinar. I did go through it awfully fast. There's a lot of information we covered. I mean, a ton of it. And so go back and listen a couple times, and I'll just say to my host, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's an honor and a privilege to be talking to Terry Talks listeners.
Thank you so much, Reed. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to share functional diagnostic nutrition and all of these opportunities with us. We very much appreciate it. Thank you for a very enlightening presentation.
Well, my pleasure.
Excellent, excellent. And for the rest of you folks, we hope that you'll, while you're here visiting us at Terry Talks Nutrition, either on YouTube or on the Terry Talks Nutrition website, we hope that you will peruse a few other videos and see if there's anything else in which you are interested having to do with the latest thought leaders in natural health interventions for a wide variety of problems. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to learn more about these concerns that individuals are trying to struggle with and trying to find ways to correct, and this is absolutely a piece of the puzzle. And so thanks again, everyone, and until we meet again, good health to you. Bye-bye.